my booktube. Welcome to Jackie's Literary Corner. I am Jackie, and I'm going to film another tag. I just recently filmed the A Christmas Carol book tab, so I found a Christmas Carol book tag. So I thought I would do the other tag that I was working on, and that is the anti-TBR tag. And this is basically a tag of books that you're not gonna read. You know, books you are anti-reading. And, okay, so question number 1. A popular book everyone loves that you have no interest in reading. I'm going to go with Scott's answer for this one from Fiction, Gunpowder and Plot and Fiction. And that is Michelle Obama's Becoming, which is a memoir. And I have all the respect in the world for Michelle Obama, and I'm so happy for her that she was comfortable enough to write this memoir about her personal life, especially as the first African American First Lady. I think it's great that she wrote this. But you know, and I'm sure it's a great book, and I'm sure she's the sweetest person on the planet, but I have no interest. I don't want to read a memoir about her. I mean, she seems like a nice person, I would rather read a memoir about, I want to read more of the memoirs about the people, in Hollywood and writers and, authors and stuff. And, you know, the people who work in the film industry. So far, that's what I've been interested in memoir-wise. Although I did recently get a different kind of memoir that I'm not used to, that I've never read before. And I just want to grab this. And that is H is for Hawk. So, which is a little different for me. I'm going to try it. But, you know, I have all the respect in the world for Michelle Obama. And I think it's great that she wrote this memoir. Because there's these people are not obligated to write these memoirs for us. They don't have to put their life out there, you know, in a book. But it's so cool that she did. That she felt confident enough to share her life. But, yeah, I just have no interest, you know. And also I have no interest in reading her husband's. And again, no disrespect. It's just not my thing. I have, not the memoir aspect, but I'm not interested in that. Okay, so next question number 2. A classic book or author you don't have an interest in reading. And I said Moby Dick. Although I did attempt to read this book. That's a long book, and it's about a subject I have no interest in learning about whaling, and he spends a lot of time talking about whaling, apparently, and just, you know, I would rather watch the movie version of Moby Dick. You know, if it was a little bit shorter, then maybe I would make an exception, but it's too long of a book to commit to something I'm not interested in. So, yeah, I'm never going to read it, and I don't think you shouldn't have to. If there's classics that you're not interested in, you know, you don't have to read every single classic. Okay, so next question is a 2-part question. Number 3 is a 2-parter. An author whose books you have no interest in reading, and then 3.2 is problematic author whose books you have no interest in reading. And it says you can combine question 3 and 3.2. Or you can answer them separately. Okay, so I kind of didn't combine them, but first I said Ernest Hemingway. I don't know if he's considered a problematic author, but I don't like his writing style. I did read Farewell to Arms, and the only reason why I felt obligated to read another one of his books is because I felt guilty and felt like I should give him another chance. You know, especially because he was recommended by one of my aunts, you know. And it was partly, I think, because she said that my dad reminded her of Hemingway a little bit in his physical features and his hobbies, all of his outdoor activities. Not necessarily his personality, because I do think he's a little bit misogynistic. But just there are certain aspects, like I said, his hobbies and then his physical features reminded her of my dad a little bit. But you know, I did not like Farewell to Arms. That's not my kind of World War I story, you know. I mean, it's, I prefer a more romanticized version of it, I guess, in all honesty. And I mean, that's not realistic, but I mean, why do you think a lot of people read a lot of World War II books? Because they're the romanticized versions, or they're the heartbreaking versions, which I guess is kind of like the other side of the coin of romanticism. But yeah, I don't know if he's problematic. I mean, like I said, I think he comes off as a bit misogynistic, and like I said, I don't like his writing style. So he might be considered problematic. I don't know. But then I also said J.K. Rowling. The only books I didn't have any interest in her books beyond the Harry Potter world, and even then, I prefer the 7 original novels and not the Fantastic Beasts plays or A Cursed Child, which apparently, from what I've heard, and I've listened to a lot of reviews and a lot of people discussing the Cursed Child play, and I just have no interest in it. There's things that I've heard that I don't like, and I know people will probably say, well, although maybe not so much now, but when it first came out, people would probably say, oh, you should read it yourself before you decide. It's like, no, I'm not going to waste my time with a book that I have no interest in. I mean, yeah, I could get it from the library, but, I'm not going to waste my valuable reading time for a book that I am, because I've already, from the things I've heard, I definitely am not interested in it. And I'm not interested in her detective story. And I was not interested even before, way before everything just exploded. All the drama with her exploded and just came out, I mean, I think after a few years, after the last book from the original Harry Potter series, I think things started coming out, but then it just escalated. But even before it escalated, I just had no interest with her work past the 7 Harry Potter books. But I definitely know she's problematic. People have a lot of issues with her as a person, and I think it makes people conflicted about the books. I get that you don't want to spend the money on someone who is such a horrible, hateful person, and you don't want to, and people don't want to talk about her on here, and I get that, but I still love the books. I still have a soft spot for them, and I bought them years ago, so I'm not buying anymore, although I thought about buying a paperback copy of the 3rd book, because mine is falling out of its binding, because of how many times I've opened to my favorite chapter in the book, but I still love the books. And yeah, maybe all the stuff coming to light could potentially give people a new perspective on the books and not a positive one, but I still love the books. I already bought them. I already have them. And yeah, like I said, I thought about getting a new paperback copy of the 3rd book. I still haven't bought it. I might buy it one day, but I can do what I want with my money. I get that you don't want to give her money, but you know what? I think does the money even go to her? And, I guess it does. And there are ways around that. And I still want to go back to the park because I lost all my pictures from the park before. And I don't think I should be judged for that. I think people should do whatever they want. I don't support her beliefs. I don't agree with them. I think it comes from a very ignorant place. And she shouldn't have said anything on Twitter in the first place. So, but she's definitely problematic, obviously. And then John Green, he's not problematic as far as I know, but I just have no interest. And it kind of refers to a question that's going to be answered later on. Oh, actually, well, no, not. Yeah, later on, like question number 5, kind of is connected to John Green, but John Green I have no interest in his plots for the reason referring to the next question and. So weird. Like, my ears have been acting really weird. Like, they will pop randomly, and then all of a sudden, like, I can hear a ringing in my ear. I don't know if there's a problem or if this is just normal. I don't know, but anyway. So I'm not saying he's not problematic as far as I know, but I just have no interest in reading his works. And the same thing with Rick Riordan. Not problematic, but I just have no interest in the work. I think I'm past the age. It's just like what I was trying to tell someone at work yesterday. We were talking about, like, he's, I was telling him how I'm kind of more a books person than I don't like video games, but I love fantasy books. And I was trying to explain to him, but it was bad timing because I was explaining to him while I was, walking past, and we were still supposed to be working, so it's kind of like I distracted him a little for a second, so that's why I quickly, walked. Gabe said what I wanted to say and then quickly walked away. And then, in fact, the customer kind of looked at us, and I don't know, he's just curious about our conversation. He was like, okay, he's supposed to be bagging for us. You shouldn't be distracting him, which is probably that. So I quickly walked away. I gave him my 2 cents, and then I didn't give him the best answer anyway. I probably could have given him a better answer, but we weren't supposed to be talking like that. Okay. So I brought that little story up because, it's the same reason I don't like the books the book series he mentioned was the same reason for why I have no interest in Roar is because I think even though yes there are some the books have gone for an older audience over the years, I feel like it's kind of too late for me to get into those books. He was actually talking about the R.A. Salvatore's Dark Elf in that whole world, not just the Dark Elf, but everything beyond that, beyond the original Dark Elf trilogy. It's a good thing. I really hope I don't get in trouble for that. It just happened so quickly, so hopefully. But anyway, sorry. Whenever I know I did something wrong, like in a situation like that, then it ends up bugging me because I'm so worried because I know it was wrong, and then I'm worried, oh my god, I'm gonna get in trouble for this. But anyway, so yeah, it's the same reason for R.A. Salvatore's works is the same reason with Rick Riordan's work. I think it's a little too late for me to get into it now. So, like I said, not problematic, but it's just too late for me to, I feel, to get into it. Get into his work. Okay, so yeah, yeah. One more author, Rainbow Rowell. This one just is the same with John Green. I think there's some problematic people. There was problem with I can't think of the rest of the title. It's Park something. About and there was some bad representation I think in there. And then Landline, I remember Landline also got some criticism too. So I don't know necessarily she's problematic, but some of her books I think are. I'm not 100% sure, but like I said, it's the same as with John Green, where it's just like that genre is just not my thing. That's the answer. Actually, let me just skip ahead to question 5, and then I'll go back to question 4. Is a genre you have no interest in, or a genre you have no interest in, or a genre you tried to get into and couldn't. And like I said, it's YA contemporary. I have read a couple last year or in 2018. I read but I have no interest, in YA contemporary, like in contemporary in general, because I read for escapism. I don't want to read about a world that I can relate to, a world I'm familiar with. That's why, and I still love, I love historical fiction, but that, again, it's still a form of escapism because it's a past that I'm not familiar with. I didn't grow up in that past, so I want to read books about things I see in the real world, things I see in real life. And things I could technically... Eleanor and Park, that's the Rainbow Rowell book I was thinking of. Eleanor and Park. That's the one I heard there was some bad representation in that one. But, yeah, YA contemporary is just not my thing. I don't want to read about the real world. I don't read about stuff I see every day. I want to escape. And I'm not escaping if I'm reading a book that is, And besides, I will watch, movies or TV shows that are contemporary, but I have no interest in, books that will take me a week to read or a few days at the shortest. I've seen it every day. I live in the contemporary world. I don't want to read about a contemporary world. I want to read to get out of this world and go to another world, or go to another time period. Or see someone else's, it's going to sound bad, but see someone else's suffering. I would rather do that. There have been times where I've been mildly curious about some books, like Well Met and Well Played, and whatever than the other books in that series, because it's in an area I grew up in, and it's the Renaissance Fair, and I love the Ren Fair. But it's usually because there's, like, if I'm interested in one contemporary, it's because there's an aspect of that I'm curious about, or that I'm kind of interested in, but then I probably will never get around to it, or I might just listen to an audiobook. Now, I might read contemporary set, like thrillers and mysteries. I might read those. But that's also kind of, it still has a little heightenedness to it. Which, yeah, contemporary romance can have a heightenedness to it too. Because most of it is all fluffy and not realistic to real world romances, but, the exciting aspect of being chased by a serial killer, or, a mystery of trying to reconnect the past, figure out the past. Sometimes in the family drama, sometimes that stuff can make it a little bit more intriguing. Okay, now back to question number 4. That was 5, so back up to question number 4. An author you have read a couple books from and have decided their books are not for you. Now, I picked 2 answers, and one of them I've read a lot of their books, but I've changed my mind over the years and moved on from that. But Thomas Hardy and Sarah J. Maas. Thomas Hardy, I've read 2 of his books, and I bought a few of his other books as well at the time, and I knew I was getting into Thomas Hardy with his dramatic, depressing endings, but then, Jude the Obscure, I made the mistake of starting with that one, that was a little too much and too close to home for me. Not that I've experienced exactly what Jude went through, but it involved something terrible happening to kids, and I don't like that kind of stuff. I don't like the idea of horror happening to kids, the trauma, and like particularly this particular trauma itself was a little too much for me. So, but I read most of the book. I didn't say it was read. And then sorry about that. And then I read Far From the Maddening Crowd, and it was kind of boring, a boring plot, and not like the characters. Now, I have no problem with unlikable characters. I feel like there's a difference between unlikable characters that are just not nice people, but you still kind of like them, you're still intrigued by them, and there's the ones that are just plain, like, you just don't like them. Like, I think there's a difference between liking, an unlikable character, but then not liking a character that is not likable, that's just, like, you just could never get into them as a person. Like, you can be entertained by someone who is not a nice person, not a likable person, and a horrible human being, but then there are some characters that are just, like, I don't know how to explain it, because I'm using almost the same exact words, it's just, I don't know if I'm getting across my point, that there is a difference between characters that you just don't like, and then unlikable characters. Maybe that helps. I don't know if that helps. But yeah, I read that one, and then I was going back and forth with keeping Test of the D'Urbervilles and the Return of the Native and the Mayor of Casterbridge. I kept going back and forth. I was like, should I keep them? And I was like, I've read 2 of his books. I'm just gonna donate them. And it's not like the end of the world if I just only read 2 of his books and just, although he's a beautiful writer, I couldn't get into him. And then the other more contemporary author, not contemporary as in she writes contemporary, she writes fantasy, but contemporary as to an author of today is Sarah J. Maas. That I read I read the first 3 books of Through the Glass, ACOTAR. I read the first 3 books in that series. I didn't even bother with A Corner of Frost and Starlight. I kept hearing people about it, and a lot of people said things that were like not a lot happened. Some people said it was pointless, and I know, again, you should buy the book first and read it yourself before you decide, but you know what? I feel like people say, you should decide for yourself, but you know what? You don't have all the time in the world. Yeah, why waste your time on a book that you're not 100% sure on? You can borrow it from the library, but unfortunately, my library does not. I've never seen a Sarah J. Maas book at my library. But it's like, why? There's nothing wrong with not wanting to waste your time on a book. If you know you're not going to like it. Or if you are a little uncertain about it and you don't know if you're going to like it. If you really are curious, you'll go buy it. But I feel like you shouldn't, people shouldn't guilt people into not deciding for themselves. And, I'm always paranoid about that someone's one day, because it's true. No one's ever said anything to me, but I'm always worried someone's going to be like, how do you know if you haven't read the book yourself? You should read the book first before you decide. I think it's because I have heard it before, but no one's actually said it to me, but I have heard people say that. And then I read books 1 through 4 of Thrown Glass. I haven't got to book 5, but it's just, I read the first 3, but by the time I got to book 4, it took me forever to finally get around to reading the book. I liked it. I didn't hate it. It's just, I wasn't into it anymore, I feel like. And I also, I try not to let this influence me, because I feel like just because you don't like the main ship does not mean you should, reject a book series or a book just because the plot itself might be actually good despite the fact you don't like the couple. But then I guess, if you're there for the characters and for the couple, then it can make it harder to really enjoy it if you're annoyed by that couple and you don't like them being together and you're rooting for a different person to get the girl, and I was. I was Team Kale, and I rather Selena and what's his name to just stay friends. Why does she have, I was thinking, why does she have to put them together? Why can't he and Selena just stay friends? Why do they have to be a couple all of a sudden? I know Selena's a romantic and she, but why? Why can't they just be friends? Why can't she have guy friends? Of course, it's like, well, she'll be friends with Kale. And the other dude, Prince, what's his name? I can't remember his name at the moment. It's like, oh, she can be friends with him, but it's like, I want her to be friends with the other dude. And it's like, because I didn't like him. And what's annoying, what really, this is kind of petty of me, but what really bugged me is that Sarah J. Maas was being interviewed by, I think it was Jessie the Reader, and she was like, and the question was, how would these 4 characters, the characters from Thrown Glass and the characters in ACOTAR, be on a road trip? And she was saying, and she said that Reese and the guy that Selena's with, the endgame guy, I just can't think of his name. They'd be so much alike. They have so much in common. And a petty part of me was like, no, I don't want them to have some in common, because I don't like him. I like Reese, but I don't like this guy. I don't want them to be similar. And I feel like, because they're similar, that means I have to like them both. And it's like, I don't like them both. I like Reese. And it's like, I feel like they were saying, not that she was, obviously, but it felt a little, it was like, the petty part of me was like, no, they shouldn't be alike. Because that means I would have to like, both guys because they're similar. It's like, you like Reese, so you must like the other guy. It's like, no, I don't like the other guy. But that was just a petty, childish, immature, version of myself. But, yeah, so I like, but I am still kind of interested in the one that's coming out because it's about Cassian and Freya's sister from A Court of Akatar. Cassian, I can't remember, not Elaine, but the other one, the other sister, the one who's kind of bitchy. I can't remember her name, but I think her next trilogy is going to be about them. And then I'm still very nervous because I kind of am one of those people. I get what people are saying about how they don't want Elaine with Lucian because like it feels like a forced ship because it's like, oh, you're my mate, and she doesn't like him, and they kind of ship her with Azrael. And I kind of lean more towards Lucian. I like Lucian. I want Elaine with Lucian. But I guess if he's not the end game, then I'll ship myself with Lucian. So I haven't entirely let go of that part in that series. And I almost have been tempted a few times to reread Akamath. But I don't know. You know, it is in the donation pile because I don't know if I'm going to continue with it. And it just is taking up space. But, anyway, okay, so finally on question number 6. Okay, so question number 6 is a book you have bought but will never read. This can be a book you have unhauled or returned to the library unread. And I picked, because I picked The People of the Book by Geraldine Brooks. I hauled it, or I don't actually know if I technically hauled it as in showed you guys, but this is a book I bought from the Roast Office Bookshop, or Gibbons Bookshop. I don't know what to call it anymore, because my parents refer to it as the Roast Office, but I always refer to it as Gibbons, but it's kind of both. But anyway, I was kind of in a little bit of a small historical fiction cake, and I am reading other historical fiction, Once Upon a River by Diane Centerfield, but you know, after I read her book, The 13th Tale, it was her first novel, her debut, I was tempted to read more historical fiction, so I picked that. I decided to read that one because it wasn't as long as The Historian or The Physician. Those are chunky books. I'm still reading those. And it was just a very interesting, you know, but it just I got bored really quickly as in I read the first handful of pages and I'm maybe 20 pages, so I was like, I'm gonna look on Goodreads and see what the reviews say, see if it's worth continuing with, and I just decided to drop it. I did not like the main character, which I know comes off as me saying, oh, you must be a character-driven reader, but I'm a plot-driven reader, and I kind of got bored with all the technical stuff, like her talking about the history and stuff. I would rather watch a movie or documentary about that. And I just couldn't get into it. Like, really quickly, I lost interest. So I decided, you know, I'm gonna get rid of it. And I put it in the donation pile. Okay, so question number 7. A series you have no interest in reading, or a series you started and have DNF'd. I DNF'd. And this is a series that I started, and I got pretty far into it. I only had like a few books left to go, but after a while, I just couldn't take it anymore with this book. And that's the Shannon Messenger's Keeper of the Lost City series. Now, it's still a cute, really exciting, fun, thrilling story, so you know, if you want to read it, that's great. You know, nothing's wrong with it per se, but I mean, it's not problematic or anything, but it's just, I just couldn't get it, you know. After a while, I got just tired of it, you know, and the constant back and forth between the heroes and the bad guys was just like, oh my god, someone win already, or why is it taking so long? And the characters, I thought this was a middle grade, but then the characters age up like in the Harry Potter series. It follows a similar formula to Harry Potter, where like our main characters goes to school, and then gets older and older, of course. but the characters just stayed just as immature as they were in the first book, and it was just like, I know they're teenagers, but come on. And I kept thinking, I kept forgetting how old they were. Like, I thought they were younger, but then I remembered, oh wait, they're actually older. They're getting into their 16, 17, and they still felt like 12-year-olds. And then, again, I know as a plot-driven reader, why am I complaining about character aspects? But first of all, Sophie got annoying. She got so much power. Like, okay, let me first, before I continue, this is a series about this girl named Sophie, and she's telepathic. So she's always kind of been an outcast with her family and her at school, and tries to just avoid people and distract her mind so she can't hear every single person's thoughts. And, and so but then, well, on a field trip with her classmates, this pretty boy is watching her, and she can't read his thoughts. And then it turns out that, after she follows him, she finds out she's an elf, and she is taken, and the boy's name is, I already forgot his name. I cannot believe I can't remember his name. I'm gonna remember his name probably after I finish filming, but whatever his name is. He's one of the main characters, obviously, and she ends up following him into his world of elves, and it turns out that she is a genetically engineered elf that was sent for protection to be raised by elves because these bad guys, this group of rebellious people against the government, is after her, and she's been created as a weapon. And like I said, she, gets adopted by a family who is like his, kind of like zoologist, but for magical creatures or creatures of the world, that the fantasy world that we, the elf world, and she makes a lot of friends. There's a little bit of teenage romance and angst, and so it's kind of tries to follow the formula of Harry Potter, but basically, Sophie, our main character, keeps getting revealed that she has more powers and more powers, and it's like, oh, you might have more powers. It's like, oh my god, she doesn't need a whole bunch of powers to seem powerful, or to seem like a weapon. Why does she have to have so many powers? It just annoyed me so much that she felt like almost like a Mary Sue, in a way that she kept getting more and more powers, and everybody loved her, except for a few people, and those people aren't nice people because they don't like her. I did like the family that adopts her. I did like them, and I thought their job was really cool. I would love that kind of job. Working with all those creatures, those animals. But then, she ends up I was rooting for one of the characters to win her over, to be her love interest, and of course he's not the endgame love interest. He pretends that he doesn't have feelings for her, but him, along with the other three guys, she has three guys that like her. So it's more than just a love triangle, it's a love square, where three guys are totally into her, and by the third or fourth book, one of the guys is finally taken off the board, and he likes another girl. And then the guy who, going by the last book I read, is probably the end game. He's so annoying. He was such an ass to Sophie, and to his sister, and he's so arrogant. He's so controlling. It's like, it has to be my way or the highway. And I heard that in the next book he just got worse. And she on Messenger, something happens to the characters where Sophie and this boy and some of the other characters, they meet with the bad guys in secret. Which I was fine with that, because teenagers do dumb stuff in these kinds of books anyway. So they meet with the bad guys, and then Sophie gets hurt, and so does this guy, and they end up in the hospital. So a good chunk of the book is them in the hospital flirting with each other, and her being worried about him, and him being worried about her, and it's, oh my god, I don't care. Especially because he was not the end game I was rooting for. I did not want him to get the girl, but it was pretty clear that Shannon Messenger was going to make him the end game. And I kept debating, and I was like, finally, you know what, these books are way too chunky for me to keep going. And I didn't even know how it was going to turn out, and not in a way, oh my god, how is this going to end? But first of all, there's only 2 books left. There was only 2 books left, and nothing felt resolved. It felt like it wasn't even close to being resolved, and it felt like it would be rushed. in the last 2 books. And then I just also was just tired of it. It felt like it was like those stories where there's like superhero or spy movies where it's like you just want the bad guy to die already. And what happened with this one is very similar to what happened with the House of Night series, where I just got tired of it. I got tired of the main character, and I got tired of the constant back and forth between the main character and the bad guys. And now that one, the House of Night, I was okay with the love interest situation, because she ends up with a guy that, although I felt bad for the guy, how she treated him, but yeah, I still like the main character in House of Night series ends up picking the endgame guy. But there were so many factors. I just got tired of the Cube of the Lost City series. It's still a cute series, and I would still, recommend to someone like Larissa to check it out and give it a shot. If she sees it and comes across and likes the descriptions, I would still recommend it. But considering how passionate and vocal I was just now about how much I didn't like it, but I don't think overall it originally wasn't that bad. It was just there are certain aspects of the plot certain things about the series that I didn't like. But I'm all for people giving the series another chance. And there's other people that actually love it on BookTube, and I trust their judgment. And so just because I didn't love it in the end doesn't mean other people won't love it. And I think Larissa might actually like it. But anyway. Okay, so that was last question. Finally on the last question. A new release you have no interest in reading, and that is Midnight Sun by Stephanie Meyer. I remember I don't know, I keep saying I'm not a Twilight, but sometimes I wonder if people would go, but maybe I would have been considered Twilight back then, but I enjoyed the series and reading it. I saw the movies, and it was something that my mom and I bonded over because she liked it too. And I was Team Edward at the time before I knew about it and realized that both Edward and Jacob are control freaks, and Edward's a stalker, and it's creepy that he watches her in her sleep even before they were a couple. I mean, it's one thing if you're a couple and if you have sex and you just watch, yeah, it's a little creepy. It could still be seen as a little creepy, but but if you're a couple and the other person doesn't mind you staring at them while you're sleeping, then that's fine as long as you're already together. But Edward and Bella were not together at the time. They never even had sex. He didn't even want to have sex with her until they got married, because he's an old-fashioned guy. He still sticks to his core values of when he was alive. Yet he will watch her when she sleeps, even if they're not a couple. But I remember I was excited when I first heard about Midnight Sun coming out the first time, not the second time, but not this most recent time, but when it first was announced that she was working on it, she was going to do it. And I was so excited at the time, because I was like, oh, it's so cool. We get to get Edward's perspective on this. And then apparently it got leaked a little bit, so she gave up on it. And now, all of a sudden, years later, she decides, I'm going to write Midnight Sun. And maybe it was a cash grab thing, or maybe she just got inspired, especially because it's been a tough year for everybody, especially, all around the world. But maybe she's just being nice, or maybe it's just a cash grab. I don't know for sure. Most people will probably say, oh, it's just a cash grab. But, I think people that are still Twilight fans or still have a soft spot for the series, maybe they wouldn't think that way. Maybe they'll think, oh, maybe she's just being nice or whatever, and they want to give her the benefit of the doubt. Most people probably would say it's just a cash grab. Because after all this time writing it now, it wasn't like the whole, as far as I know, it's not like she had finished the book when it got leaked. It was only a little bit, so it was like, I get her feelings were, and she was a little nervous, and she's like, oh, now people aren't going to read anymore, I guess. It's like, I didn't see anything wrong with her wanting to publish it then. I'm more interested in the sequel to The Host, which I think was called Soul, or, I think she was going to write, or Seeker, no, I think it was called Seeker. She was going to write a sequel to The Host. I was more interested in that, because I think that one was a little bit better than Twilight. A little bit. But, I'm more interested in that. Not super interested. I'm not going to jump at to buy a hardback edition of that. But, You know, I'm kind of curious. Like, I would, if it comes on Libby, or if they like made an audiobook of that one, or if I saw it in my library, then yeah, I would get that one more so than Midnight Sun. But it's so funny. A lot of people in the reviews saying that they didn't like Bella in the original series. She was annoying and a frustrating character. And now they don't like Edward in this book, and which is hilarious because like it was in that one, and they loved Edward in the original Twilight series. Edward had a lot of fans, including myself. So it's funny that they loved Edward because Bella's glorifying how great he is and he's like a Prince Charming. Although people still saw his, as we've gotten older, a lot of us have realized that Edward's not that great and not a Prince Charming. But now when we're in Edward's head, it's like he's gotten 10 times worse, and because it's from his perspective, we see Bella in a more positive light. People see her in a more positive, a nicer light. So it's so funny, that people, but it's like I moved on from Twilight. I don't even have any interest in what is it? I can't remember who wrote The Beautiful or The Damned. That one just came out. I have no interest in that because I've just moved on from vampires. Yeah, I still love Buffy, and if there's vampire, but I'm not as into vampires anymore. I mean, if they ever made a movie of those, then maybe a preview could kind of make me a preview for if those books ever made into movies or a TV show like The Discovery Witches, then maybe I might. But anyway, so that is the anti-TBR tag. If you guys are interested, feel free to. I'll be right there! If you're interested in this tag, feel free to do it. It's a fun tag. If you like this video, be sure to give a thumbs up. Subscribe if you haven't already. Click the bell notification below if you want to see when I post new videos. And I hope you are wearing your face mask and washing your hands and using hand sanitizer and staying 6 feet apart from people and just being kind to everybody. Especially this year, we need a lot. We need a lot of kindness. And I will talk to you all later. All right, bye.